We don't understand those who start wars or those who strive to stop them. We don't understand why the dollar is becoming more or less expensive. We don't understand why women are too emotional while men are not sensitive at all. We don't understand. But do we want to? Why do people lose their mutual understanding, even though they recently swore to love each other? How can one understand someone totally different from oneself? What can misunderstanding in a family lead to? Time together, Christ, respect. Studio The Truth About, together with International Charity Fund Youth with a Mission, presents Understanding, Expressing Appreciation, Commitment to Family, Positive Communication, Spiritual Commitment, Trust. Let's talk about family. Understanding. Every day, millions of people all over the globe are looking for their mate to experience a special, incomparable feeling of love. Every year, millions of couples come together in love and then separate in pain because they lost their feelings. Couples married early in youth most often split. Only 50% of marriages of those who got married later in their youth survive. But we can say that half of the couples who still continue to live together can't boast about having a healthy marriage. Some people continue in marriage out of compassion to their partners, others out of duty, and still others out of fear of new problems and having to start everything all over again. I don't understand you. You don't understand me. Such phrases dominate the communication of millions of couples who not long ago were burning with love and seemed to have no differences in views. And now, it's like they're speaking in different languages and can't overcome this barrier. Misunderstanding is the reason for 80% of divorces in the world.
The problem of understanding is one of the greatest problems in our society, and this problem exists in different spheres, in relationships between subordinates and bosses, between husbands and wives, as well as between parents and children.
We're inclined to focus on ourselves, on our personal interests, and we may not really be interested in problems of other people. In other words, this is mere selfishness. It might seem that the other person is more important than anything that we say or think, but the majority of us fight for our ideas so fervently or with such zeal that we're often ready to step over dead bodies to prove ourselves right. We want everyone to understand us, while we ourselves are not ready to understand others.
Victor and I got acquainted at the first aid training courses in Maltiska Charitable Service. I was Victor's student and he was my teacher.
I remember that she was no different than anyone else. I didn't like her more than others. She was just a nice girl and studied well. Victor liked Alla for her persistence and her interest in medicine. It was interesting to communicate with her, and their views on life turned out to be quite similar. And so a friendship quickly developed between a young teacher and his student.
I liked his sociability. He was an interesting communicator, and we used to talk a lot after work. Our friendship started during these conversations, and this friendship grew stronger and stronger every time. There was no love at first sight.
It was a time when Victor was looking for an assistant for himself. He suggested to his superiors Alla as a candidate, and since that time, they started working together. Disregarding mutual interests, the normal attraction of men and women, there is a number of differences making men and women absolutely unlike each other and unique at the same time. Often, the reason for misunderstanding between men and women is in a simple unawareness of differences existing in genders. And on the contrary, awareness of these matters leads to harmony and good relations.
I knew that men are stronger and more courageous, pragmatic. They like when women are subordinate to them. Women are more romantic and gentle. They like when men give them flowers and date them.
Most people think that such things automatically go without saying, that it's useless, generally speaking, to study one's husband or wife. At that time, I also shared this opinion. It's been proven that a woman's brain is 10% smaller than that of a man. although a man's brain shrinks quicker with age than that of a woman. But neither size nor mass of the brain influence the level of man's or women's intellect. And while form and size of the brain do not cause any problems, the differences in how it works are the reasons for misunderstandings of all sorts. For example, many women are irritated at how men often don't notice what's happening around them while they're watching TV or sitting at their computer. At the same time, men lose their temper when women switch from one subject to another, or when they combine watching their favorite soap opera with a telephone conversation, simultaneously discussing important family issues. The secret of such misunderstanding, according to scientists, lies in peculiarities of brain functions of men and women. Men and women communicate in totally different ways. As a man, I'm a classical representative of men. I tend to speak with the language of the brain. I tend to share facts. And when the facts I wanted to share come to an end, as a rule, I stop talking. I'm really not interested in the subtleties of relationships. I do not talk much. I'm tired of a conversation lasting for over an hour and a half.
Женщины, как правило, больше интуитивны и более склонны.
Women, as a rule, are more intuitive and more inclined to see a situation in general. When a man asks a woman what exactly she likes and dislikes at a given moment or in a specific situation, he's likely not to be satisfied with the answer. And this happens because a woman needs to take her time to construct her answer and put it in a logical sequence. And the man has to be aware of such a distinction and not to ask her to explain why one thing is like this and another is not.
It's a stated fact that men are quicker to perceive information, and thus they are quicker to react to it, although women are quicker to process the information at a given interval of time. This is why a woman can perceive the information from various sources, while a man concentrates on one source. And the fairer half of mankind can also perceive nonverbal messages better than men. This is why, in a company of new people, a woman will be quicker to notice relationships going on between the people, while a man will only perceive the information communicated by these people. On the other hand, this woman's ability can play a bad joke on the woman when an inadvertent intonation or gesture of a man may be perceived by a woman separately from his words. For example, she might interpret it as a display of attention or aggression. If your beloved man forgot about your first anniversary, or your woman after an hour of wandering keeps repeating, "I remember exactly where this turn is," do not be quick to make it an issue. The reason is that the memory of men and women differs significantly. If a man is lost, he would remember the direction of motion and the distance covered. At the same time, a woman in a similar situation will remember what happened along the way, for example, the signs and shop windows. It is no secret that women are much more talkative than men. This phenomenon is a favorite topic of jokes. Women normally use 3 times as many words as men. In figures, it is represented by 25,000 women's words versus 10 to 12,000 words for men. This difference is related to peculiarities of brain functions. Dr. Deborah Tannen from the USA, who is known for her numerous scientific articles in linguistics and interpersonal communication, found that men tend to directly communicate their wishes, while women go around the theme of conversation. Also, men perceive language by logic. This is why they hear only what is spoken. Women involve emotions, and this is why they often read between the lines. Deborah Tannen says, when a woman is nodding during a conversation with a man, this means only that she is listening to him, while man understands this to mean that she is approving of what he is talking about.
To better understand how to help your man, it's best to ask him about it. I think that when a man reaches a certain age, he knows what he wants or what kind of help he requires.
When a woman is sharing her problems with a man, we have a tendency to pretend that we're good listeners. But when this is overloading us, we want to get to the bottom of it. That's enough. What is your point? But oftentimes, in my relationship with my wife, I noticed that it's not really important for her to get to the bottom. What's important for her is to tell me about her feelings, what emotional impact this problem had on her.
Она просто хочет
She just wants someone to hear her, to try to understand her and share the problem she's having at the moment.
American scientists carried out an experiment during which several hundred men and women were asked to distinguish between different flavors: mint, parsley, dill, onion, cucumber, cheese, pine, lilac, and machine oil. The result was that women won by a large margin. More than that, women have such a well-developed sense of smell that they can find their newborn baby among other babies. Taking this into consideration, men have to pay attention to what they smell like. It's unlikely that the smell of sweat, old socks, bad breath from alcohol, or onions can have a positive influence on one's relationship with a girlfriend or on intimacy in the family. It's proven that women have at least 10 times more sensitive skin compared to that of men. This is why, perhaps, bodies of boys are often decorated with bruises and scars, but a rough or a clumsy touch causes a woman to experience great discomfort or pain. That's why every time a husband is touching his wife, he should remember this and be as tender and gentle with her as possible. When discussing eyesight, female eyes have a great number of receptors, and thus their perception, how much they can perceive, is more developed. Women are able to notice things much more than men. A woman's view range is 45 degrees, while men have so-called tunnel vision and see one object at a time. This is why a man can see an object at great distance, but overlook things right next to him. This is why there may be conflicts when a man can't find the mayonnaise or oil in the refrigerator. It's a bad joke concerning men's abilities. This is why the woman has to give the man exact coordinates of the sausage in the fridge. Where exactly is it? What shelf is it on? What color is the package? At the same time, men going with their family by car on a vacation should not rely on their wife's advice concerning route or distance. Women have a wonderful color discernment, even in the dark, but they are less capable of judging about the distance. This is why it might be better to use a map or to use a GPS navigator in order to preserve relationships in the family. The relationship between Victor and Alla went on well, but the question arose: was there anything besides medicine which united them? Would a girl understand and accept his different interests? At that time, I was studying in an Orthodox seminary to be a priest. I was never ashamed to be a Christian. Meanwhile, spiritual topics for our conversations also arose. I don't remember who was the first to talk about spiritual things, Alla or I, but I think it's not significant. I think it all happened naturally. However surprising it may be, Alla was searching for God in her heart. This is why they would spend much time speaking about spiritual things during their long walks after work. This led to sincere attraction, and with time, to falling in love. Victor and Alla had wonderful unity. They could understand each other from a single word. He would start a sentence, and she would finish it. Our friendship grew stronger. We saw that we have all this mutual understanding, common views that would often coincide, and this was surprising for us to think in the same way. When we saw this likeness in many things, then love started to emerge. And soon the question arose, what else should we wait for? And so the young people decided to get married. I had a little fear of getting married to the wrong woman. When you wake up in the morning and you realize that you really don't understand her at all.
One day we were strolling around the city and down its streets, and Vita shared with me about his views about family life and what he would like his wife to be like.
I started a conversation about a lifelong friend that I would like to have a wife who would understand and support me in everything, with whom I could walk through life and serve God.
I also shared my views with him, and at some moment we realized that our thoughts are the same. They merged together. Vita proposed to me to get married, and I accepted.
The couple were in seventh heaven, They loved each other, and soon their destinies would be united together forever when they stepped on the towel of happiness. But soon they faced an unexpected obstacle. Their parents stood in the way of the wedding.
When I told my parents about the wedding, they advised us to wait for some time, telling us that it was too soon for us, for some more time to get to know each other better, that we were too young.
I remember coming home and my parents telling me, "What are you talking about? This is not time for you to get married. You're just 22. And I said, "I'm not just 22. I'm already 22. To my surprise, they coldly accepted this news. It was like I was poured a bucket of cold water on my head. Victor and Alla were in despair. Then the young people took a radical step. They secretly applied in the registry office and got married.
My mother was somewhat shocked when I showed her the wedding certificate, and she said, "Well, nothing can be done. You got married and we'll live together. This is your decision."
Victor and Alla were satisfied and happy because they got married out of love. It seemed to them that they would spend their entire lives in such euphoria. But several months after the wedding, great happiness and understanding vanished without a trace. Next, what ruined the harmonious relationship of the couple? Is it possible to preserve love and understanding after the wedding? What is the greatest enemy of marriage? When a misunderstanding appears in a family relationship, it's an ordinary thing. Every one of us grew up in a unique family and has an unrepeatable life experience. Everyone has their own aims, intentions, values, ideas about good and bad. This is why there's such a great risk of facing misunderstanding, contradiction, offense, and alienation. Every one of us believes that there is something important, something worthy of applying extra effort and time and emotions. One person is sure that a main goal in life should be promptly washing dishes, and this washing cannot be delayed until after the family finishes dinner. Another person is never late, and it's a terrible offense when someone comes late to a meeting. A university diploma, or income of at least $2,000, is a sign of self-esteem and normal life for another person. One person is sure that there is nothing more important than children. Someone else goes fishing, plays cards with their friends, struggles for peace in the world, and thinks about lofty things. Another person is constantly finding fault with someone, and still another is solving his or her problems with alcohol. Misunderstanding and the resulting conflicts start when we spread our personal values far beyond the borders of our personal interests, forgetting that marriage requires mutual understanding and sacrifice of some personal ideas, as opposed to the dictatorship of personal ideas.
The family experiences several challenging periods of development. The first one of these periods is the first year of marriage. The second period is when children are born into the family, and the third period is when the children leave their parents' house and the couple stays alone.
The first year of marriage is usually one of the most difficult ones. Every day it's the same. Dirty dishes left on the table, which the husband didn't bother to take to the sink, and so on.
We started having conflicts. I didn't like that Vito was giving me so little attention. He wasn't giving me flowers, which he had done before we got married. Sometimes he didn't like the food I cooked. When he told me, I was offended.
There was some irritation, some offenses. "You do this wrong." "No, you do it wrong." "Why did you put it there?" Early on, we didn't really want to or understand the need to compromise. At the beginning of married life, husband and wife try not to make problems, and they keep their irritation and resentment inside. But all those negative feelings left unspoken grow daily by leaps and bounds, and the longer it goes, the worse it gets. In a while, each partner is irritated even by the things he or she found nice and pleasant about the partner. The thing which would previously have not been noticed would now make them angry. For example, when brushing teeth, after putting the toothpaste on the toothbrush, the husband would carefully roll the bottom of the tube, while the wife would just press in the middle. The husband cuts the bread holding it in his hands, while the wife would use the cutting board. I might do many things following my parents' example, and Alla was following her parents' examples. These models did not work in our families. We were supposed to do it differently, we just didn't realize it at the time.
For a while, our Christian beliefs were set aside because of all of these household routines, strife, and permanent discord. All of these totally occupied our hearts.
Alla, for example, liked to talk on the telephone for hours. I told her, Alla, how much longer can you talk? You should talk to me. Why are you talking to your mom for an hour or even 2? I once needed to go to my parents because they phoned and asked me to help with something. I went. She said, why didn't you talk to me about this first?
I wanted him to help me around the house, but he was very busy. He didn't have time, came back home tired. I didn't understand him.
I realized I had some income. I made some money. I had it, and I could spend it on this or that. And she says, no, it's the woman who has the final say. The woman has the control of the finances.
I was most irritated by his stubbornness. I myself was very stubborn, and when two stubborn people come together, it may be very difficult.
Very often, a girl gets married to a guy, but live like they're with a totally different person. And the same about men. They marry a quiet, modest girl and have to live with a commander in a skirt. Why does this happen? The reason is loss of sincerity. Very often, at the start of a relationship, young people try to look different from what they actually are, and so everyone falls in love with the best traits of the partner, ignoring the weak ones, simultaneously displaying only one's advantages while successfully hiding flaws. Instead of finding out the truth about each other or evaluating one's partner, the couple wear masks and fill everything with secrets. The result of such behavior can't be hidden forever. The princes and princesses turn into monsters, absolutely different from those beautiful images which the young people were in love with before the marriage. It's very important for any family to have honest conversations where the couple can share their worries, their dreams, their fears, even their long-term plans. If there are no honest conversations in the family, it may, in my opinion, result in a partner trying to look for this somewhere else, somewhere outside the marriage.
The wife can easily solve this problem by talking with her friends, while the husband, I think, is likely to load himself with work and finds his own significance and appreciation at work.
90% of all the problems arise because of the inability to communicate. It's not enough to merely master skills. It's important to communicate in such a way that you understand each other. The reason for this is because nowadays, children are not taught the culture of speech, respect, and understanding, appropriately sharing one's emotions and feelings. In addition, raising children is often done through constant criticism. It's easier for us to express our dissatisfaction than to praise a child. Very often, the parents, instead of paying attention to the child's behavior, humiliate the child, as a person labeling him or her saying, "You're not clever, you're stupid, you're good for nothing." The children, in turn, adopt the same attitude and project it onto their friends and classmates, and later onto their partners in marriage, and then onto their own children.
God gave us 2 ears and only 1 mouth. Obviously, understanding our human character, knowing that we should listen more and talk less, including criticism. Criticism is not likely to build relationships in any way. In order to say 1 negative thing, we should be required to say 10 positive things. We often use words that ruin our relationships by saying things like, "You're always doing that," or "You can never find the right solution in this situation." These words ruin our relationships, and I think that we have no right to say such things because it's not true.
Vitya and Alla's relationship deteriorated day by day. They even tried to live apart several times. After the pain and all the negative emotions subsided, the couple made peace and tried to settle everything. However, they eventually returned to the same old ways. When we're sitting and watching each other, we realize that we love each other. But when we start talking to each other, everything ends up in a quarrel. We couldn't handle all that tension all the time, all that conflict. We realized that the only option to change anything is to simply divorce. How could they continue to live in shame and dishonor? How much longer could misunderstanding and humiliation be endured? The last conflict set up a full stop in the relationship. They didn't have the strength to start it all over again. There was only one way out: to apply for a divorce. Although the decision was made, the heart was looking for a solution. Somewhere deep inside, the young people turned to God for help and relied on Him as their final hope. Next, what can the lack of understanding in a family lead to? How can broken relationships between partners be restored? 2.5 months had passed since Victor and Alla had begun to live separately. Alla was pregnant and she was thinking a lot about whether the child would see its father. Somewhere deep inside, she felt she wanted to live with Victor, but the pain of resentment wouldn't go away. One of Victor's friends, once he learned about Victor's critical situation, suggested that he should watch a Christian video seminar on family issues. Victor agreed. Having watched the video cassette, the young man was shocked. During the 2-hour-long lecture, he was told in simple words how a family should be built according to Christian principles. If only Victor had known about it earlier, he would never have made so many mistakes. Having taken the cassette, he went to his wife. After a short conversation, she did agree to watch the video seminar, and God touched her heart. In a short while, after a conversation face-to-face, Victor and Alla decided to try again, and a miracle occurred. The couple realized they were not able to build a healthy family without God's help. But as it turned out, faith in God was different from some feelings deep inside which no one could see. It was a daily practice and a daily manifestation of God's love to your neighbor.
I'm thankful to God that He brought our family out of that mess, that He helped it to be reborn, and that He helped to build it brick by brick as a new and strong Christian family. I've understood that to have peace in one's family, one has to follow the ideas suggested in the Bible.
I've discovered many new truths, many practical ideas about how one can improve one's family life.
When, from time to time, we had conflicts or when there was a difficult situation, we stood up and prayed and asked God to give us wisdom to handle the situation.
There are always plenty of reasons for conflicts. I would not say that there are less of them now, on the contrary, but at the same time, we try to find some more positive ways to solve the conflicts every time. Besides restoring their family relationships, Victor and Alla managed to build good relationships with their parents. As it turned out, the parents' advice appeared to be a problem only because of a wrong understanding. So having changed their characters, Victor and Alla managed to change their attitudes toward their parents.
Now, when our parents give us advice, we thank them for it and accept it and appreciate their care.
Every family is unique. The parents give very valuable advice, but we should ask ourselves a question. Will this advice apply to my family? What positive and negative impact does it have? It was a long time ago that Victor and Alla were on the edge of divorce. God blessed the couple with 3 sons who now grow surrounded by the love of their parents and understanding. This mutual understanding allows the couple to get over all problems and crises. Scientists from Cornell University in the U.S. carried out research in which approximately 700 adults participated. The scientists found that men and women feel happier in the company of one another than in solitude. Marital relationships are directly related with a higher self-esteem, more satisfaction with one's life, a feeling of total happiness, and fewer disorders. While those who do not have stable romantic relationships have a lower self-esteem, are less happy, and suffer more often. Claire Kemp-Dashit, sociologist. Unfortunately, not every family realizes the importance of such relationships in our country. Not every husband and wife choose sincerity, love, and trust to be the material for building their marriage. Unfortunately, the outlook of many people allows them to have secrets in their marriages, to cheat, and to choose divorce as an easy way to resolve conflicts. Nevertheless, I wish our ability to trust God and each other would become a basic tool in our attempts to build a happy family. And only then, phrases like, "I don't understand you," or "you don't understand me," will be gone from the family vocabulary for good.